Do it properly. Don't invent the bicycle. Don't do stupid things. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. How to remove and reinstall the strut assembly on these cars. And these cars are E82, E87, E90, 91, 92, 93. I guess including M3 and 1M cars with slight differences. But I have a regular E90, so that's what's going to be serving the purpose of being an example in this video. And what I'm going to talk about today is, just like I said, how to remove and reinstall the strut assembly the proper way. I have seen videos when people tried to do the removal and the installation in the wrong way. I've seen so many of those videos. People are just inventing things, inventing the bicycle for no reason whatsoever. There is just one proper way of doing it. Well, one of the things is that this can be dangerous. The factory OEM springs are under a lot of tension. First of all, this is an aftermarket unit. Well, this is a coilover that I'm going to be using as an example in this video, but the factory springs, if you don't have lowering springs, they are under a lot of tension. This will serve the purpose just because the basic geometry of this strut and spring assembly is not really changing much. No matter what strut you have, no matter what springs you have, it's going to be exactly like this. The difference is, like I said, is going to be if you have a factory OEM spring, it's going to be compressed and under a lot of tension, because this is the top seat of the spring. Let me take this apart a little bit. This is the spring. Don't bump that. And this is the strut. So that's how these things come apart. Like I said, the factory shocks or aftermarket shocks, lower springs, OEM springs, coilovers, they would look slightly different, would have a different design, but in general they will look, like I said, they would have exactly the same geometry, I guess, and basic shape, in a sense that you have a strut. Well, I'm repeating myself. You have a strut, you have the lower seat, you have the spring, you have the upper spring seat or the head, and then you have this nut that holds the spring onto the strut. And this nut is an important piece in this video. It's going to be a centerpiece, more or less, I guess. Well, not really, but this is an important point that I'm going to talk about a little bit, I guess, in a little bit. So what I'm trying to explain here is that if you have like I have a coilover system here, so there is no preload and it's all fine to be taken apart without any spring compressors and all. A lot of people would not have that, and would, like, if you have a regular car, daily driven car, you have to, for example, replace your struts, you will be dealing with OEM springs. Lower springs would actually be under much less preload compared to the OEM factory springs, but I bet 95% of people trying to get the struts replaced will have OEM factory springs, and like I said, those are under a lot of tension. So that being said, this nut on the top of the strut is going to be the key moment of this whole strut and spring assembly. This nut holds the upper spring seat, the spring pad, onto the strut, and that's what's holding this together and holding the spring from popping off the strut. So the factory spring, again, is under a lot of tension, and this nut is the only thing that holds it in place and holds it compressed. Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to say, that under no circumstances you remove this nut off the strut while this assembly is in the car, or you don't have a spring compressor on the spring. You just never do that, because that will hurt you. Trust me, that's a really terrible idea, to try to remove this nut from the top of the strut without having a spring compressor containing that spring tension, or even having this thing in the car and trying to remove the knot, it's going to be just a terrible idea. Just don't do that. So okay, let's so that's my point number one. Never ever remove this knot while this assembly is in the car, or you don't have a spring compressor on it. Just don't even try. I've seen videos when people try to zip this off with an impact wrench like this, holding it down with feet. Just you're going to hurt yourself a big time if you try to do that, or damage something at least. So that's point number one, I guess, in this video. The point number two, I guess, follows out of this point number one. To replace the strut, you have to extract this assembly out of your car like this, meaning that this whole assembly comes out of the car first, and then you deal with the spring and the strut and everything. I've seen people still having this strut in the seat, in the hub, while trying to disassemble, compress the spring and remove the knot and all. But I just don't see a point in doing that, because when the thing is out of the car, you can just lay it down on your table, desk, workbench, whatever. You can clamp it down, you can have a good access to everything to use the spring compressor and such. So I really don't see a reason to keep the strut in the hub and try to disassemble this. Just it's going to be sticking out. You will probably at some point damage some paint, and it's just in general uncomfortable to work on this while it's on attached to the hub. Like I said, it comes out of the hub super easy. All you have to do is remove this bolt that clamps the spring seat onto the strut, and use a wedge. I've been using this screwdriver forever, although I still have some kind of a wedge somewhere else. In any case, this works so perfect that you don't really have you don't have to use any special tool. This wedge is basically what's being driven into the slit in the strut seat, and it just releases the tension. This thing comes out, and then you can work on it. So super easy, a better control of a situation. I guess that's what I'm trying to say when you work with the spring. And the bottom line is this spring is what creates this whole dangerous situation that I'm trying to I guess explain, so people don't try to do anything stupid and hurt themselves. So extract this whole thing out of the car. It's really easy. Don't remove this knot until you have a spring compressor on the spring. And I guess that's the bottom line of this video. I guess I'm going to show how this is done, in a sense that how this thing comes out. So you have the thing is, you still have the hat that is on the top of this. This is the spring seat, and then you have the top hat of this whole assembly. It's still in the car. I guess that is a little bit misleading because you don't see that thing that's still here, still attached to the strut tower. But it's going to be here. It will have 3 studs that you remove first from the top, from under the hood. Basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is remove those nuts that are holding the strut hat to the strut tower. Then lower this whole thing down, remove this bolt, drive a wedge into the spring seat, strut seat, and then slide the strut out of the hub, and then work on it. I guess that's what I've been trying to explain, I guess. I'm going to show how this is done. So this is the wedge that goes into this is the position that you will have this hub in when you're trying to take this out or in. So if you're installing this assembly, you tilt this thing like this, and this is the way that the strut and spring assembly comes out or goes in. So That's it. So at this point, all you have to do, just tilt it back and push it into the strut tower. The only problem that people have doing this is this clearance here, because it's not going to be a lot. It's going to be barely any clearance at all, like maybe a millimeter. I don't have the top, the hat, so like it's kind of so much more clearance. Also, if you have a factory suspension and your control arms still have rubber bushings in them, this whole thing will try to spring up, so you will have to be pushing down. Mine is all ball joints, so it's actually trying to get down, and I have to be holding it up. So that's, I guess, a benefit of having ball joints in the suspension instead of the rubber. So basically this is it. If you're disassembling it, once you remove the top nuts, the nuts on the top of the strut tower, this will actually go down like this, and then you will tilt it this way. You will go past the fender edge with the wedge in the slot or slit of the hub. This will come out like so, and then you can work with it. I'm reassembling it. I'm going to slide it back in, push it in like so. So I guess that should be it for this video. This is the process of replacing the strut. That's what you have to do if you want to do it properly, when you're replacing the front strut. And yeah, this is not exactly like an OEM configuration, but I hope this gives you the idea. So there is no clips or anything to worry about, so it's just all that comes off once you remove those two, one nut and bolt. And like, I guess I'm trying to do the a recap of this, and when you remove the top 3 nuts, this whole thing slides down, or I guess it will fall down a certain distance, and then if you have those rubber bushings in the control arms, you will have to push it down and then tilt it this way and pull the strut out of the hub. And the reassembly is the reversed order of this, what I just explained. So do it the proper way. It's really easy. There is no magic about it. The only thing is the spring compressor, if you have OEM springs. If you have aftermarket springs, you still have to use the compressor, the spring compressor, and compress it slightly. But in my experience, depending on the type of alloy spring, you may actually not even need a spring compressor to do the strut removal. You always have to check for the preload, because these springs, or like I said, they can be super dangerous. They are from the factory under, I would say, like almost 50% compression preload. So if you see this length of the spring while it's on the strut, when it uncoils, it's going to be almost 50% longer. That's how they are. So do it the proper way, be safe, don't hurt yourself, and learn something. It's really easy. It's like one of the easiest cars to work on.